Hello, friends. Good morning. Happy Monday. I'm Libby, and this is my audio journal, Finding Joy in the Shadows. Each week, I show up here to talk through the curveballs life throws our way and to help us look for the pockets of joy that still manages to sneak its way in, even in the messiest moments. This space is part reflection, part resistance, and part love letter to anyone who's struggling and still showing up. I'm working through my own stuff here in real time. And if something I share helps you feel a little less alone or a little more grounded, then that's good. It means we're doing this work together. For today, I wanted to talk about how we can live our joy out loud. But before I get too far ahead of myself, per usual, let's take a few minutes, catch up on some recent happenings from around the world, and dive into a few Libby's problems or LPs. And I will say these are definitely Libby's problems, but I think like two of them have real world they still have real world potential consequences. We'll just put it that way. Um, okay, so first up, we got to talk about NASA for a second. Did y'all catch their urgent little message they sent out the other day? It was kind of quiet. A couple of major news sources did pick it up. CNN, I saw it on their feed because I was just out here minding my own business, trying to survive the week, when I stumbled across multiple headlines and threads posts that basically said NASA confirms a mysterious object and it's rapidly approaching our solar system, likely an interstellar visitor. I'm sorry, what did you just say? Visitor? NASA just casually drops that we've got a cosmic stranger barreling toward us from outside our solar system. And we're all just supposed to carry on like they didn't just say that. Like, okay, sure. Let me just go ahead and finish this little spreadsheet over here, pay my phone bills, order more groceries for the week, and just completely ignore that there is a space rock that is currently hurtling toward Earth. And what is it exactly? Here's the fun part. Nobody really knows. Is it a comet? Maybe. That's the current theory, the current leading theory based on its markings, and there appears to be a trail. But could it also be a rogue probe? Sure, maybe. Uh, Fun theories I've seen is could it be the mothership finally showing up to collect us? Honestly, at this point in the timeline, nothing would surprise me. Apparently, according to NASA, it's on a trajectory unlike anything they have ever seen before, which is awesome to hear, right? And that's why they're calling it interstellar. What that means is this thing came from another solar system into ours, interstellar. So here's my question. Why isn't this the top story on every single TV station? Where are the press conferences? Where is Miss Jodie Foster walking in with a sensible pantsuit decoding alien radio signals? Where is the adorable and fabulous looking Jeff Goldblum rebooting a satellite somewhere on his laptop while whispering about chaos theory? Because this sounds like the plot to a prestige sci-fi series that Netflix is definitely about to greenlight. But no, it's just another manic Monday here in this timeline that we're all living in. So it's fun, right? Are we safe? Oh, should we be excited? Concerned? Oh, should we smoke them if we got them? I've been considering it, not gonna lie. So I don't know what this is. I think it's I think around August, September is when we'll get a clearer view, is what they're saying. But they don't know what it is. They don't know what it is. And we're just gonna go ahead and blame this all on Mercury retrograde. Call it a day. So yeah, if you didn't already know about this story, well now you know. You're welcome. Okay. So another fun story or headline, I should say, that threw me into kind of an emotional tailspin this week. Haven't been able to stop thinking about it. Apparently, climate change, yes, that same terrifying real and very much happening right now, climate change, is also responsible for unearthing a 7,000-year-old megalithic monument in southern Spain that predates both the Egyptian pyramids and England's Stonehenge by over 2,000 years. Yeah, you heard that right. Because of a severe drought near the city of Huelva, Spain, apologies if I totally butchered that pronunciation, water levels dropped low enough to expose an enormous prehistoric stone circle. Some are calling it the Spanish Stonehenge, but let's be real, that nickname doesn't even do it justice. This thing is older, like way older. Think ancient ritual, star aligned celestial vibes older. All the mysterious, how did they even do that kind of stuff back then? And this thing is massive. It is massive. The kind of It's the kind of thing that makes you immediately start asking, who were these early people? How did they build this? And what were they doing out there 7,000 years ago with their little stone circles? But here's what's really messing me up. This thing has been buried under our feet for thousands of years. And now we're only seeing it because of the climate crisis. It's like this weird emotional cocktail of awe and dread. Both, right? Balance. I want to marvel at the ancient engineering and wonder what it all means or what it all could mean. But I also want to cry a little because the only reason we're seeing it is because the planet is literally drying up. And I don't know what to do with that information other than share it with you all. Because this story had me fascinated and low-key horrified in the same breath. Go ahead, give it a Google search. I promise your brain will spiral in 5 different directions, and all of them will be fascinating. All right. One other headline that caught my eye literally minutes before I hit the record button here, and you'll want to buckle up for this one, Buttercup. Okay. So apparently, our infamous haunted queen, Miss Annabelle, is still out there wreaking havoc while on her own version of the era's Grand Tour. And apparently, the moment Homegirl rolled into Gettysburg, Pennsylvania's entire statewide 911 system mysteriously went down. Just poof, went black. Yeah, you heard me correctly. Their entire emergency line for the entire state went dark the minute she showed up in the state. People are saying the second she crossed into town, the entire system glitched. Coincidence or deeply spooky timing? I don't know. Now, to be fair, the authorities were very quick to clarify that while, yes, there was a service disruption, but no, they do not believe that Annabelle had anything to do with it. According to them, this was just your standard, boring, run-of-the-mill IT failure. No paranormal activity detected. Case closed. Okay. Sure. Just like how when Homegirl entered New Orleans and immediately a prison had a full-blown jailbreak. And, oh yeah, that Nottoway plantation just mysteriously caught on fire and burned to the ground. Been there hundreds of years. So we're good calling these all just coincidences. Okay. Like I said when I shared this story a few weeks ago, I do not recommend messing with this kind of dark energy. This doll should never have been moved. But that's just me. You believe what you want. You do you, boo. Okay, so those were just some of the topics or Libby's problems or LPs that were on my radar last week. As always, we'll go ahead and dive in. I've got my iced coffee on hand. I will give you fair warning that Lulu Joy is in the house today. So I apologize ahead of time if her opinions override my voice at times during today's recording. We just got back from a car ride, took her to Starbucks, got her an egg white turkey bacon sandwich, cut it up into nice little tiny pieces, and I gave her a stern talking to and asked her to give me about 45 minutes of quiet. So fingers crossed she will agree to those terms so that she can be rewarded later. Sometimes she changes her mind mid-contract, and she has every right to do that. So I apologize ahead of time if her barking gets loud. All right. So if you're ready to get started with today's topic, then I'm ready to get started. So let's go. Okay. So friends, for the rest of our time together, I want to actually pause and do a pulse check. Yeah, I know this is a podcast and I can't see you, but still, in case no one has asked you yet today, how's your heart feeling? Because I gotta be honest, when people ask me this dreaded question, how are you doing? I don't really know how to answer that one right now. Sure, life inside my bubble, my work, friends, family, my daily routines, those things feel okay most days. And technically, as I've talked about in this podcast before, since those parts of my life I can control, if they're all good, then I'm good. Simple, right? But in this current timeline we're living in, that question feels a whole lot more complicated. When I really sit with it, when I force myself to look outside my carefully curated bubble, even for the tiniest moment, my honest answer is I feel overwhelmed. What's happening all around us right now feels too big. Some days, I'm not even sure I'm fully processing all the feelings behind the images and stories I'm watching unfold on a daily basis. And lately, I've been left wondering, is this just me? Or are other people feeling like this too? Like we're almost living two completely different lives at the same time. Anyone else feeling like this? Now, I'll be honest, the original plan for this week's episode was to share ways we can live our joy out loud. I was going to talk about how we should give ourselves permission to lean into the things that make us come alive, even if they feel silly to other people. I had about 45 minutes of thoughts, stories, tips, and tricks all ready to go. But here I am. Well, actually, there I was 24 hours before hitting the record button. And the words I wrote almost 2 months ago, they didn't feel honest anymore. The world had shifted so fast. And my heart is now in a completely different place from where it was when I first sat down to write this episode. So I threw it out. Honestly, I will say my schedule would probably prefer that I just hit the record button, say the words I already wrote, and move on. But I couldn't do that because maybe today isn't about a perfectly packaged list of ways to live joyfully. Maybe today isn't, well, actually, maybe today is about being honest with ourselves. Maybe it's about telling the truth about where we really are, saying it out loud and asking together, do I even have the right to be joyful right now? Or let's be more real, do I even have the time in my day to find joy? What does joy actually look like when the world feels sideways? Can we still claim it out loud, even when we're tired, confused, or maybe even a little scared? So for today, I want us to try and hold both of those realities, our joy and our ache. How does that sound? If you're still with me, if you haven't hit pause or checked out completely, let's dive into this little thought bubble of mine. So instead of asking the usual, how's everyone doing? How's everyone feeling today? I want to ask that question a little differently. What is everyone carrying today? What are you carrying today? For me, right now, I'm carrying grief. I know for me, when I step outside of my tightly crafted safety bubble and I actually take in what's happening in the world, grief is what I'm feeling and carrying the most. I am grieving for the world I once knew. I am heartbroken watching so much sadness in literally every direction I look, from countless deaths to violent attacks across continents to the wars being played out, and for the pure cruelty behind some people's intentions right now. I feel sick watching how easily people are justifying such horrible actions. And it breaks my heart to see how quickly some in our communities have embraced the ugliest parts of our humanity. And for context, full disclosure, I am rewriting this episode just days after flash floods swept through Texas, after more senseless bombings in Ukraine, and after watching our own military stage what to me looked like a pretend invasion on a soccer field in LA where kids were playing, young children. Their weapons were raised, pointed at them. They even had a sniper on hand. Like, oh my stars. Like, what are we even doing here? So, yeah. When I step outside my little bubble of happiness and I really look around, when I try to answer that question, how am I doing? The honest answer is I am carrying a lot of grief right now. Anyone else nodding along? Because let's be real. Most days, all it takes is one headline, one story, one friend texting us, OMG, did you see this? Or one scroll too far. And suddenly it feels like the only thing we can see or feel is despair. And how can joy live there? Right? So if anyone out there listening is feeling even an ounce of what I just described, then yeah, I totally get why some of us might not be in the right headspace to live joyfully right now. And honestly, if someone is feeling even the smallest shred of what I'm feeling, who am I to tell them how to lean into the sillier side of life right now? So these are the thoughts that have been running through my head nonstop lately. Literally nonstop, waking me up at 1:30 in the morning, can't go back to bed. And honestly, it's why I felt the need to rewrite today's episode. Because if I had just hit record and shared all of my ideas and tips about how we can live joyfully, sure, I think there are still good ideas. I think they still matter. But if people are living in the same reality I'm living in right now, and I didn't pause to acknowledge that, if I didn't shift my focus and intentions to meet the moment we're actually in, then I think all of those joyful ideas would just land on empty words. So, okay, where do we go from here? It kind of feels like I'm inviting you all into my brain right now. This is how I legit process life these days. I take in all the feelings, I try to categorize them, put them in their little boxes, tuck them in at night into their proper places. And then I ask myself, okay, now what? So, what I'm doing right now, this is me showing you how I make the secret sauce. If you've been with me for a while now, what I'm about to say probably won't come as a shock. I almost always ask myself when I'm looking at everything going on all around me, when I'm feeling all of the feels, I ask myself, in this situation, what can I actually control right now? If you listen to last week's episode, then you probably heard me ask these questions pertaining to that episode. You heard me ask, can I control the US government? No. My state leaders? Nope. My local mayors or school boards? Nope. And if I'm being completely honest, I can barely control Lulu Joy when she's barking at my neighbors to get off our lawn. But on the flip side, can I control how I manage my emotions? Yeah, I can. Can I control how I respond to the events happening around me? I think so. Can I control how I carry my grief? Yeah, you can. So now that we've named how we're feeling and we've now sorted through what we can control and what we can't, the question then becomes, what the heck do we do with all this information? How do we hold the heavy stuff, even when we know we can't control it? Because let's be real, we can name it. We can acknowledge it all day long. But those feelings that come with all those things, they're still going to be there, whether we acknowledge or ignore them. So, what do we do with that part? How do we take all those feelings, the grief, the overwhelm, the heavy, the noise, and still find a way to focus on something good? How do we make room for joy, even when it feels like it shouldn't even fit into the picture right now? How do we keep moving forward in joy when everything around us feels like it could crush us or swallow us whole? I will say this ability to hold joy and grief at the same time It didn't come naturally for me. It's something I had to learn slowly over years of living through some really hard seasons. I lived through seasons where I was doing work I loved, but the financial reality behind the scenes was completely falling apart. Seasons where I was struggling to pay the bills, feeling overwhelmed and alone, just trying to make it to the next payday. There were moments where I experienced the worst of humanity at the hands of a man and still had to show up for work the next day and smile through the pain. I lived through seasons where I stood beside friends walking through unthinkable heartbreak, held them close, and told them it would get better even when I wasn't sure I believed it myself. I've lived through people doing terrible things to me. I've lived through losing my brother unexpectedly and my dad within a year of each other. We all lived through a global pandemic, and I wasn't sure any of us were going to make it out of that one alive. And most recently, I walked through one of the darkest seasons of my life, and truthfully, I came within inches of not making it out. Now, I'm not sharing all of this to be dramatic. I'm sharing it because I need to remind myself, and maybe you do too, that we've all faced darkness before. We've all carried heartbreak before, and somehow we made it through. Maybe not untouched, maybe not unscathed, but we're still here. And if we found our way through the darkness before, you betcha, we can find our way through it again. And listen, if you're waiting for me to tell you that I had some big breakthrough moment, that I sat in the middle of all my messes each time and suddenly turned my life around overnight, I wish I could tell you that. But the truth is, it didn't happen that way. For a long time, I was just surviving. Forget about thriving. I was just trying to make it to the next day. It took a lot of years and a lot of help from the people who loved me before I even began learning how to take care of my inner world. It wasn't until my mid-30s when I met my life coach, Amy, that I finally started learning how to stop letting all the chaos around me dictate what was happening inside of me. So, this isn't about telling you to just be positive. This is about telling the truth. Joy isn't some switch we flip when life gets hard. It's something we hold on to with both hands right in the middle of the mess. And let's be honest, life is pretty messy right now. So yeah, life feels heavy, chaotic even. Maybe even feels like joy should just sit this one out for a bit. But here's the thing I keep coming back to. When the world gets darker, that's actually when we need the light the most. And I'm not talking about some big performative joy parade. I'm talking about the quiet, stubborn joy that says, nope, you don't get all of me, darkness, not today. Because one thing I've learned, sometimes the hard way, is that darkness loves darkness. It feeds on it. It grows stronger the longer we sit with it. And while, yes, sometimes we have to sit with the hard stuff and feel the ache and name the grief, but we also get to say, enough's enough. We also get to crack open the door and the windows and let a little light back in. A favorite song, a belly laugh we didn't see coming, a kind text, a rerun of a comfort show we've seen 1,000 times. It's not ignoring the pain we're seeing. It's reminding ourselves that pain doesn't get the final say. So maybe living our joy out loud isn't some frivolous luxury. Maybe it's resistance. Maybe it's how we keep going. And listen, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. Some days, for me, finding my joy feels like I am literally digging through rubble with my bare hands. But it's worth it because even a little light changes the way we see the room we're standing in. So, what does that look like for you right now? What's one small, silly, steady thing that keeps your heart soft? What's one place where you can crack open a little joy to take a small reprieve from reality, even if the ache is still there waiting for us? Because I promise you, there's space for both. Our joy and our grief can sit at the same table. Our ache and our laughter can share the same air. And maybe that's where we begin, not by pretending the darkness doesn't exist, but by refusing to give it the whole story. So if you're wondering where to even start with joy right now, especially when our brains feel fried and our hearts feel heavy, well, one place we can start is by asking ourselves, what are the 5 small things that remind me I'm still me? Now, if you've been around for a while, you might remember back in episode 7, I think it was 7, I introduced you to Jenna Kutcher's JK5 method. Hers was all about diversifying your social media, choosing 5 categories to keep your brand well rounded. But when I shared mine with you, I wasn't curating a brand. I used it to build myself a life raft. Anyone remember what my JK5s were? Any guesses? Mine were, of course, must-7 Korean boys, BTS, duh. But there's also my dog Lulu Joy and all things Yorkie and cute animals. There's food videos, soulful content, and all things nostalgia. Nothing fancy, nothing performative. These are just things that help me feel a little more like myself when the world feels upside down. They don't have to be big or public or even impressive. They just have to be yours. They just have to be ours. Maybe joy right now isn't about feeling happy all the time. Maybe it's about remembering what keeps our soul anchored when everything else feels like it's drifting sideways. I'm curious, what's on your list right now? What are some of the small, silly, sacred things helping you feel like you again? Because when the world feels broken, joy is one of the simplest ways we can remind ourselves that we're still whole, that we're still here, and that we're still okay. So maybe that's where we'll land for today. Start with your 5. Think about them. Really think about them. Write them out. Not because it fixes anything in the world. Not because it makes the grief automatically or magically disappear, but because it gives us something steady to hold on to when everything else feels shaky. And then next week, we'll keep this conversation going. I've actually got a special guest joining me, my new friend and rising BTS content creator, Miss Jackie in the Soup, as she's known on Instagram. We're actually going to explore what it looks like to lean into the lighter things, even when the world feels heavy. And yes, we will absolutely be unapologetically fangirling over our 7 handsome guys along the way. Because sometimes joy looks like making space for the hard conversations, and sometimes it looks like dancing in your living room to your favorite K-pop band. It's all about balance, friends. Life is big enough for both. And honestly, I think we need both right now. Okay. I think I have babbled on long enough. I did hear Lulu chiming in the background, so hopefully she didn't drown me out too much. I guess I'll be giving my sound engineer a run for his money this time when I send him the recording. But I think I have babbled on long enough. As always, we will add to this next week. Remember, whatever we water grows. So let it be joy. Let it be truth. Peace out, friends.